The MMA world has received a profoundly welcome and reassuring update regarding the well-being of UFC legend Nick Diaz, offering a stark and hopeful contrast to the alarming and distressing situation that surrounded him just over a year ago. Recent social media posts from Diaz's longtime friend and former training partner Jake Shields show the iconic fighter from Stockton back on the mats, engaging in light, playful sparring and sharing smiles with his old comrade. A little play sparring with Nick Diaz this morning. Nick was my top training partner for over 15 years, so it's good to get back together and train, Shields wrote alongside the video. The footage, showing Diaz moving with familiar agility and apparent joy, has been met with an enormous wave of relief and celebration from a fan base that has been deeply worried about his welfare. This visual evidence marks a critical positive turn in a narrative that took a deeply concerning path in late 2024. Diaz was initially scheduled for a high-profile return against Vicente Luque in December of that year, but the fight was scrapped after a bizarre and unsettling video of him surfaced online, leading to widespread concern about his mental and physical state. The situation grew even darker when allegations emerged from his ex-girlfriend, claiming he had been drugged and taken to Mexico against his will. A cautiously optimistic update from his coach in mid-2025 hinted at improvement, but Shields' video provides the first clear public glimpse of a healthier, happier Diaz re-engaged with the sport and the team that defined his career. The fan reaction has been overwhelmingly supportive and protective. Comments like, "Glad to see the Scrap Pack back together," "So glad to see Nick healthy," and "I'm so happy to see this," flooded social media, reflecting a collective exhale. However, this joyful sighting has also prompted a renewed and sober discussion about his future. At 42 years old, after a legendary but notoriously punishing career, the overwhelming sentiment from the community is that his long-term health and peace are the only priorities. Remarks such as, "Good to see him healthy with his people around him," and "Hope he's conquering those demons and taking it one step at a time," underscore a widespread desire for this to be a story of personal recovery and camaraderie, not a setup for a potentially dangerous competitive return. For now, the most heartening takeaway is simple and clear. Nick Diaz appears to be back in a safe, familiar, and positive environment, sparking hope that one of the sport's most enduring and beloved figures is finding his footing again. As the pivotal interim lightweight title fight at UFC 324 approaches, Paddy Pimblett is constructing his core strategy around a singular, self-aware thesis. His perceived advantage lies not in conventional technical superiority, but in the sheer, unnerving unpredictability of his fighting style. In facing the vastly more experienced and battle-tested Justin Gaethje, Pimblett is leaning heavily into his identity as an unorthodox weirdo, claiming that his awkwardness creates a preparation nightmare that Gaethje's camp cannot adequately replicate. "I don't wrestle like a normal person. I do everything differently. I'm not normal," Pimblett asserted. He argues that his unique, almost instinctual approach to grappling and striking makes him a stylistic anomaly, stating, "He's not going to be able to get a sparring partner in that grapples like me or strikes like me, because I'm so awkward." This philosophy of chaotic individuality is Pimblett's proposed counter to Gaethje's formidable resume. While the highlight has shared the octagon with legends like Khabib Nurmagomedov, Dustin Poirier, and Max Holloway, Pimblett contends that none of those fighters resemble his own erratic movement, untelegraphed takedown attempts, and scrambling style. He previously made a similar claim about striking, suggesting his training partner Luke Riley hits harder and better than Gaethje. Now he extends that to all phases, framing his weirdness as an intangible, unpreppable weapon that can destabilize even the most seasoned veterans. However, this narrative clashes with the statistical and historical record. Gaethje's defensive fundamentals, particularly his wrestling, are vastly underrated. A decorated collegiate wrestler, Gaethje has been taken down only 6 times in 14 UFC bouts, a remarkable rate of takedown defense against elite competition. Pimblett, in just half the number of UFC fights, has been taken down 11 times. Furthermore, the only 2 men to ever submit Gaethje are arguably the 2 greatest lightweight grapplers of the modern era, Khabib Nurmagomedov and Charles Oliveira. This suggests that while Pimblett's style may be unpredictable, Gaethje's foundational skills have proven resistant to all but the most transcendent grappling forces in the sport's history. The bout, therefore, becomes a compelling clash of philosophies. Pimblett is betting that his organic, chaotic creativity can create openings that Gaethje's technically sound but more traditional opponents could not. Gaethje, training with contender Fares Ziam to simulate Pimblett's look, will aim to prove that high-level technique, composure, and fight-changing power are universal solvents capable of breaking down any stylistic oddity. Pimblett's weirdo advantage is a psychological and strategic gambit, but its efficacy will be tested against the cold, hard reality of Gaethje's proven ability to defend, counter, and terminate fights with ruthless efficiency. The fog surrounding Israel Adesanya's fighting future is beginning to lift, charting a potential course that could see the former 2-time middleweight champion return to the octagon against a surging, heavy-handed threat. According to emerging but unconfirmed reports, Adesanya is being lined up to face the dangerous Joe Pyfer at UFC 327 in April 11th in Miami. This matchup, if made official, would represent a pivotal crossroads for both men. For Adesanya, it is a chance to halt a disconcerting 3-fight losing skid and reassert his elite status against the division's new wave. For Pyfer, ranked number 15, it is a monumental opportunity to catapult himself into the title conversation by defeating the most iconic striker the division has ever seen. This reported booking aligns precisely with the recalibrated mindset Adesanya has publicly described. In recent comments, he has consciously moved beyond the obsession with championship belts that defined his reign. For me, it's not about belts anymore. I've got 2 shiny belts at home. I just want to fight. I just want to do things like I did on my way to the belt, Adesanya stated, expressing a desire to recapture the creative, pressure-free violence of his ascent. A bout against Pyfer, a powerful finisher on a 3-fight win streak, fits this ethos perfectly. It is a high-stakes stylistic clash, the technical maestro against the powerhouse brawler that carries significant risk but exists outside the immediate title picture, allowing Adesanya to compete for the sheer challenge and spectacle of it. Simultaneously, another high-profile call-out has been launched in Adesanya's direction, adding a layer of promotional intrigue. Colby Covington, fresh off a wrestling win and announcing his intention to move up to 185 pounds, has explicitly named Adesanya as a desired opponent, framing it as a lucrative grudge match between former champions. While this bout would generate immense headlines, the Pyfer rumor suggests the UFC may be leaning toward a more measured rebuild for the last stylebender. A victory over a hungry, ranked contender like Pyfer would solidly re-establish Adesanya's footing in the division and restore his aura before potentially entertaining a bigger, more chaotic showdown with someone like Covington. For now, the path appears to point toward Miami and a stern test against Joe Pyfer, a fight that would answer urgent questions about both Adesanya's current form and his ability to derail the division's most intimidating new force. The MMA world is buzzing with speculation after UFC CEO Dana White teased a mysterious special announcement, promising to deliver the news via an Instagram live session on Tuesday, January 13th. The promotion's social media post, captioned "Dana Announcement Incoming," has successfully ignited a firestorm of fan theories, as the timing makes the subject particularly enigmatic. With the first blockbuster of 2026, UFC 324, featuring the interim lightweight title fight between Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett, and the champion versus GOAT co-main of Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes, already fully booked for January 24th, and the historic White House event still approximately 5 months away, White's reveal is unlikely to be a straightforward fight booking for the immediate schedule. Given the UFC's current pivotal juncture, the most plausible focus for the announcement is the operational details of its historic new era. The promotion has just executed a monumental shift, concluding its long-term partnership with ESPN and embarking on a groundbreaking $7.7 billion exclusive broadcasting deal with Paramount+. This transition represents the most significant structural change in the company in over a decade. White's announcement could serve as the formal unveiling of new programming formats, subscription model specifics, or exclusive behind-the-scenes content initiatives tailored for Paramount+. It may also detail how international viewers will access events or announce new studio shows and digital programming designed to anchor the UFC's presence on its new streaming home, effectively mapping out the fan experience for 2026 and beyond. Other possibilities, while less certain, remain intriguing. The announcement could involve a major strategic partnership outside of broadcasting, a significant update on the recently launched Zuffa boxing venture, or perhaps a landmark contract extension for a superstar fighter. With the MMA audience experiencing a natural lull, the last UFC event was a month ago, and the next is still over 10 days out. The timing is strategically perfect for White to command the news cycle and inject a fresh jolt of excitement into the nascent year. By leveraging the direct, personal touch of Instagram Live, he has transformed a simple business update into a captive event, ensuring that whatever the news may be, whether it's a broadcasting blueprint, a surprise signing, or an entirely unforeseen project, it will have the full and immediate attention of the entire combat sports community. The long-rumored bantamweight clash has been finalized, adding a significant jolt of star power to the UFC's return to Mexico City. Marlon "Cheeto" Vera is officially set to face the surging David Martinez at UFC Mexico on February 28th, a matchup that immediately becomes one of the most compelling attractions on the card, headlined by former flyweight champion Brandon Moreno. This fight represents a classic crossroads battle, with high stakes for both men. For Vera, the perennial contender and former title challenger, it is a critical opportunity to reassert himself in the top tier of the 135-pound division. Following his championship loss to Sean O'Malley and a subsequent defeat to Merab Dvalishvili, Cheeto needs a statement victory to halt his slide and remind the division of his trademark durability and fight-ending power. A win in Mexico, a region where he has a strong fan base, would be the perfect restart. For David Martinez, this is the monumental step up he has been seeking. The dynamic striker has been on a tear, assembling an impressive winning streak with highlight reel finishes that have made him one of the division's most talked about prospects. Facing a veteran and former title challenger of Vera's caliber is the ultimate legitimacy test. A victory here would be career-altering, instantly catapulting Martinez into the bantamweight top 10 and establishing him as a bona fide threat to the championship picture. Stylistically, the fight promises fireworks. Vera's iron chin, sneaky power, and opportunistic submissions will clash with Martinez's aggressive, technical striking and momentum. The addition of this bout solidifies the UFC Mexico card as a must-watch event, offering a pivotal matchup that will dramatically reshape the landscape of the bantamweight division. Sean O'Malley's return to the octagon at UFC 324 is laden with a multifaceted pressure that transcends a typical contender's comeback. the former bantamweight champion, who hasn't tasted victory since March of last year after dropping 2 consecutive fights to Merab Dvalishvili, is at a critical career juncture where the outcome will dramatically alter his trajectory. A win over the formidable Song Yadong reopens the door to the championship picture, and specifically to the blockbuster rematch he craves with the newly crowned king Petr Yan, a fight O'Malley has labeled the biggest that can be made at 135 pounds, and one he envisions for the historic White House card. A loss, however, would cement a 3-fight skid, dangerously marginalizing him in a rapidly evolving division and casting down on his ability to re-enter the title conversation. Professionally, the stakes are about legacy and opportunity, but a new, deeply personal dimension has been added to O'Malley's preparation. For the first time in his fighting career, his 5-year-old daughter will be in the arena to watch him compete live. "My little princess is going to be there watching, and that's exciting," O'Malley shared, acknowledging that her presence introduces an emotional variable unlike any he's faced before. While he's performed for presidents and billionaires, the thought of his daughter's eyes on him changes the psychological calculus, adding a layer of paternal pride and desire to create a triumphant core memory for his child. O'Malley is also on a mission of stylistic reclamation. He has contextualized his recent losses as the product of a uniquely difficult, stylistically tough matchup against the relentless grappling of Dvalishvili, arguing it was an anomaly rather than a decline. "That guy's still here. That guy's showing up January 24, he asserted, referring to the highlight reel striker who rose to the title. The fight against Yadong, a dangerous and technical power puncher, represents a return to the pure stand-up battles where O'Malley built his fame. It's his first 3-round fight since 2022, offering a canvas to showcase the creative striking and fluid movement that made him a star, away from the suffocating wrestling pressure that stifled him. Thus, UFC 324 is a convergence point for multiple narratives: the fighter seeking redemption from a skid, the contender eyeing a golden rematch, the artist returning to his preferred medium, and the father performing for his daughter's first show. Success means navigating all these pressures simultaneously to deliver a performance that proves the Sugar Show is not only back, but ready for its brightest spotlight yet. Bo Nickal is offering a detailed and principled defense of his controversial decision to withdraw from the Real American Freestyle 5 card, a move that canceled his highly anticipated wrestling match with Yoel Romero and drew immediate backlash from disappointed fans. The incident unfolded at the Saturday morning weigh-in, where Romero missed the agreed-upon 205-pound limit for their light heavyweight contest by a substantial 7 pounds, stepping on the scale at 212. While Nickal indicated a willingness to accommodate a minor discrepancy, he deemed this oversight a professional breach too significant to overlook, leading to the bout's cancellation and leaving the RAF 5 co-main event slot vacant. Nickal provided a meticulous account of the weigh-in process on the Ariel Helwani show, describing the growing suspicion as Romero delayed. "I woke up around 203, ate and drank to get up to 205, waited around 45 minutes for Yoel to get there. Once he didn't step on the scale right away, I kinda knew he was over," Nickal explained. He had mentally prepared for a small allowance. "I expected 2, 3, 4 pounds, and no worries, we'll get it going." However, the 212-pound reading transformed the situation. For Nickal, this was not a negotiable hurdle, but a failure to uphold the fundamental contract of the bout. "People want to see me compete, which I do too, but they don't understand what it's like to be in that position. This is not fun and games. This is not a charity match. This is a professional sporting event. I came in professional, and unfortunately, he didn't." This stance, while unpopular with some fans, underscores Nickal's commitment to treating these high-profile wrestling exhibitions with the same seriousness as his UFC career. He framed his withdrawal not as fear or gamesmanship, but as a matter of integrity and competitive fairness, refusing to grant an opponent who missed weight by such a wide margin what could be perceived as a physical advantage. The cancellation marks the second time in consecutive RAF events that a Nickal-Romero matchup has failed to materialize, following Nickal's own injury-related withdrawal from their originally scheduled RAF 4 bout. With this wrestling chapter closed on a frustrating note, Nickal's focus now fully shifts back to the UFC's middleweight division, where he is expected to return later this year, aiming to convert the momentum from his spectacular knockout of Rodolfo Vieira into a run toward the top 15, leaving the professional complications of the wrestling world behind. Fresh off a commanding wrestling performance at RAF 05, former interim welterweight champion Colby Covington is signaling a strategic pivot in his combat sports career, announcing his intention to move up to the middleweight division and immediately calling for seismic matchups against two. Fresh off a commanding wrestling performance at RAF 05, former interim welterweight champion Colby Covington is signaling a strategic pivot in his combat sports career, announcing his intention to move up to the middleweight division and immediately calling for seismic matchups against two of its biggest stars, the combustible former champion Sean Strickland and the striking maestro and former king Israel Adesanya. Covington, who snapped a two-fight UFC losing streak with a technical fall victory over Luke Rockhold on the wrestling mats, believes his path back to relevance and major pay-per-view headlines lies in the 185-pound weight class. He has framed the move not as a desperate leap, but as a calculated invasion, asserting that the division's fighters are less athletic and thus more vulnerable to his trademark style of suffocating pressure and elite cardiovascular endurance. Covington's callouts are meticulously chosen for maximum impact and promotional heat. He first targeted Adesanya, the former long-reigning champion currently navigating a rare three-fight skid, framing the bout as a clash of iconic former title holders with pre-existing animosity. "I think someone like Israel Adesanya," Covington stated, "that's someone that intrigues me. A former champion like myself, someone who generates hype, has a following, and has a platform and a brand." He then directly referenced their past verbal sparring to add personal stakes. "It's someone I don't really like. He's talked a lot of shit about me in the past, so let's see if he can actually back that shit talk up." He then turned to the ever-unpredictable Strickland, promising a spectacle both inside and outside the cage. "Oh yeah, I would love that fight," Covington said, dismissing Strickland as a cardio kickboxer and vowing to replicate Dricus du Plessis' grinding victory over him. "That press conference would be fun. It would be bonkers. So yeah, we can settle it, for sure." This maneuver is a textbook Covington strategy, using his unparalleled ability to generate controversy and headlines to bypass the traditional contender queue. By calling out the division's most prominent names, despite his own recent struggles at welterweight, he aims to create a narrative so compelling that the UFC might overlook conventional rankings. However, significant hurdles remain. Strickland is already scheduled to face Anthony Hernandez in February, and Adesanya's fighting future is unclear following his recent losses. Furthermore, the promotion may prefer to use its established middleweight stars to build new contenders rather than to rehabilitate Covington's standing. Yet, by planting his flag and naming two of the sport's biggest draws, Chaos has once again seized control of his narrative, creating a potential shortcut to a massive payday and a headline slot in a new division, contingent entirely on his ability to sell a fight better than anyone else. Following a brief period of public speculation, UFC welterweight contender Sean Brady has formally and conclusively abandoned any consideration of a drastic cutdown to the lightweight division after scientific analysis revealed the move would be medically perilous and functionally unachievable for his physiology. In the aftermath of his stunning first-round knockout loss to Michael Morales at UFC 302, Brady had publicly mused about the possibility of dropping to 155 pounds, seeking a fresh start in a new weight class. However, the idea was met with immediate skepticism from fans and analysts who pointed to his thick, power-built frame. Brady has now confirmed those doubts were well-founded, revealing that rigorous testing has permanently closed the door on the notion. On his podcast, Brady detailed the process that led to his decision. He underwent a DEXA body composition scan while adhering to a stringent post-fight diet, determining that his absolute lean baseline weight was approximately 190 pounds at just 7% body fat. This finding presented an insurmountable obstacle. To make the 155-pound lightweight limit, he would need to shed over 35 pounds from an already extremely lean and muscular physique. I was talking to the guys at the UFC PI, and they said I'd almost have to cut off a limb to try and make it, Brady recounted, using hyperbole to underscore the extremity of the cut required. The data provided a clear, objective verdict that overruled any competitive curiosity. With the weight change narrative firmly put to rest, Brady's path forward is now unequivocally within the welterweight division, where he remains a formidable number 7 ranked contender. He reframed his natural size as a primary advantage, stating, "I'm a bigger welterweight when it comes to muscle. I've beaten tall guys my entire career. There's no reason for me to change divisions." This decision refocuses his career on rebuilding from the Morales loss, which interrupted the positive momentum of his dominant wins over Gilbert Burns and Kelvin Gastelum. The task ahead is clear: to refine his game, address the vulnerabilities exposed by Morales, and use his powerful wrestling and improving striking to climb back into the title conversation at 170 pounds, a division where his physicality is an asset rather than a burden to be surgically overcome. The seismic shift in the UFC's broadcasting landscape, marked by its historic $7.7 billion move to Paramount Plus, has inevitably created casualties, with ESPN not opting to renew the contracts of several high-profile MMA personalities who became synonymous with the promotion's coverage over the past 7 years. According to reports, the network has parted ways with a cadre of top-tier talent, including former champions and analysts Daniel Cormier, Chael Sonnen, and Dominic Cruz, as well as respected play-by-play voice John Anik. This purge represents a stark business decision by ESPN, which will continue to broadcast other MMA promotions like the PFL, effectively ending an era that Cormier himself praised as instrumental in elevating the UFC's mainstream profile. While these on-air stalwarts face an uncertain, immediate future, the UFC's transition to Paramount Plus is designed to maintain continuity for its core broadcast team. UFC CEO Dana White has consistently stated that the foundational commentary booth will remain intact, confirming that Joe Rogan will continue in his role for select major events, driven by his passion for the sport, rather than financial necessity. Furthermore, White has indicated that John Anik will also make the jump to the new platform, alongside other established voices like Paul Felder and Michael Bisping, with reporter Megan O'Leary finalizing a new deal as well. This suggests a strategy of preserving the familiar audio signature for fans, despite the massive change in distributor. The human cost of the business move, however, is significant. Analysts like Cormier, Sonnen, and Cruz, who provided deep technical insight and charismatic commentary, are now free agents. Their departure from ESPN's UFC coverage severs a direct link to a period of tremendous growth for the sport on the network. The new era officially launches with UFC 324 on January 24th, headlined by Paddy Pimblett versus Justin Gaethje under the Paramount Plus banner. While the core sound of the broadcast may remain familiar, the absence of those key ESPN analysts marks the end of a definitive chapter, reminding fans and fighters alike that in the world of sports media, even the most prominent voices are subject to the ruthless calculus of billion-dollar broadcasting deals. The narrative surrounding Ilia Topuria has undergone a dramatic and concerning shift. From being the sport's most electrifying force, a devastating conqueror of legends like Alexander Volkanovski, Max Holloway, and Charles Oliveira on his path to two-division glory, he has become its biggest question mark. As the UFC forges ahead with an interim lightweight title fight at UFC 324, the undisputed champion is sidelined, embroiled in a severe personal crisis involving a public divorce and custody battle. This limbo has led UFC veteran Matt Brown to voice a stark and unsettling prediction for 2026. When Topuria does return, he may do so prematurely and vulnerable to defeat. Brown, speaking from the hard-won perspective of a fighter who nearly retired during his own divorce, outlined the invisible, cumulative toll such trauma takes on an athlete. I think he'll end up breaking to that, but it's not going to be a good time, and he's going to be dealing with shit, Brown said. He detailed how the constant stress disrupts sleep, elevates cortisol levels, and imperceptibly erodes physical performance and recovery. Tiny little worms crawling around in the brain that chip away at a fighter's edge. Brown emphasized that finalizing a divorce is not a clean endpoint for the emotional turmoil, and the public nature of Topuria's situation means media scrutiny will constantly reopen wounds. While Brown believes Topuria is that good and a smart fighter who sees the long game, he issued a grave warning about the intersection of personal strife and elite competition. If you're not trained properly, your head's not proper, anything can happen, he stated, noting that opponents like Justin Gaethje or Paddy Pimblett are no slouches. This perspective casts a shadow over UFC CEO Dana White's non-committal stance on guaranteeing the interim winner a unification bout. It's no longer just about when Topuria returns, but in what condition. The boldest prediction for 2026, in Brown's view, isn't about who Topuria fights, but whether the personal war outside the cage leaves a version of the champion who can still dominate within it. His hiatus is a protective measure, but the greatest risk may await him upon his return, when he must compartmentalize a world of private chaos to face a hungry, focused challenger with nothing to lose. The conversation surrounding Khamzat Chimaev's ceiling has officially expanded beyond the confines of the middleweight division, with a growing consensus among elite fighters that his destructive style could wreak similar havoc at light heavyweight. The latest and highly significant voice to join this chorus is Reinier de Ridder, a surging middleweight contender and elite grappler in his own right, who has publicly dissected the 205-pound landscape and concluded that Chimaev possesses the perfect toolkit to conquer it. I think he would do very well at light heavyweight, de Ridder stated, anchoring his analysis in a critical stylistic observation. His wrestling in a division that is very low on great wrestling, I think he'd do very well there. This endorsement is particularly compelling because it comes not from a casual observer, but from a divisional rival and technical savant who is himself considering a move upward. De Ridder's perspective carries the weight of a practitioner who understands the mechanics of high-level grappling and the specific challenges of imposing one's will on larger opponents. His diagnosis highlights what many see as a potential vulnerability in the current light heavyweight hierarchy, a relative dearth of chain wrestling maulers of Chimaev's caliber. In de Ridder's here, Chimaev's overwhelming pressure, relentless takedown pursuit, and top control brutality would translate seamlessly, allowing him to neutralize the striking power of the division's best by dictating where the fight takes place. Remarkably, de Ridder's analysis arrives almost in lockstep with the recent monumental praise from Jon Jones, who declared Chimaev could win at any weight. Jones specifically named reigning light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira and top contender Magomed Ankalaev as opponents against whom Chimaev would do great. The alignment of these two perspectives, one from the sport's arguable greatest ever fighter and another from a current top-tier middleweight, creates a powerful and unified narrative. It suggests that Chimaev's potential is not a matter of sheer size or power, but of a skill set so uniquely oppressive that it transcends traditional weight class boundaries. For Chimaev, who is currently sidelined with a foot injury before his first middleweight title defense, this external forecasting from his peers only amplifies the immense expectations surrounding his career. The public roadmap for his future is being drawn by the very fighters he might one day face, framing a move to 205 not as a risky leap, but as a logical and perhaps even inevitable expansion of his reign. The collective verdict from Jones and DeRitter posits that the light heavyweight division, for all its knockout artists and seasoned veterans, may lack the specific defensive wrestling infrastructure required to handle the storm that is Boers, setting the stage for a potential championship pursuit that could redefine the concept of divisional dominance in the modern UFC.